as if it were pages, not knowing what will come and forgetting what has passed. I note in the margin of my reading what I thought, I felt. Rereading, I wonder, was that me? God knows, because He wrote it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have 3 poems for you. The first one is Autopsychography by Fernando Pessoa. The poet is a man who feigns, and feigns so thoroughly at last. He manages to feign as pain, the pain he really feels. And those who read what once he wrote feel clearly in the pain they read, neither of the pains he felt, only a pain they cannot sense. And thus around its jolting track, there runs, to keep our reason busy, the circling clockwork train of ours that men agree to call a heart. The second poem is Countless Lives Inhabit Us by the heteronym Ricardo Reis. Countless lives inhabit us. I don't know when I think or feel who it is that thinks or feels. I'm merely the place where things are thought or felt. I have more than just one soul. There are more eyes than I myself. I exist nevertheless. Indifferent to them all, I silence them. I speak. The crossing urges of what I feel or do not feel struggle in who I am. But I ignore them. They dictate nothing. To the I know, I write. The third poem is one of the very famous poems, Tobacco Shop, by the heteronym Alvaro de Campos. I'm nothing. I'll always be nothing. I can't even wish to be something. Aside from that, I've got all the world's dreams inside me. Windows of my room, the room of just one of millions in the world nobody knows. And what would they know if they knew that? You open on the mystery of a street. People are constantly crossing. A street blocked off to all thought, a street that's real, impossibly real, and right, unconsciously right. With the mystery of things lying under live beings and stones, with death spreading dankness on walls and white hair on heads, with fate driving the cart of everything down nothingness road. Today I am bowled over, as though hit by the truth. Today I am clear-headed, as though I were going to die, having no more brotherly feeling for things than to say goodbye. Turning this house and this side of the street into a line of coaches in a long train, with its whistle shrieking goodbye from inside my head, and a nerve-wracking, bone-cracking jerk as it moves off. Today I am mixed up, like someone who thought something and grasped it, then lost it. Today I'm torn between the allegiance I owe something real outside me, the tobacco shop across the street, and something real inside me, that it's all a dream. I failed in everything. Since I was up to nothing, maybe it was all really nothing. From learning and training for anything useful, I escaped by slipping out the back window. I went off to the country with great plans, but found only grass and trees there. And when there were people, they were just like any others. I leave the window, sit down in a chair. What should I think about? How can I tell what I'll be? I, who don't know what I am, be what I think? But I keep thinking so many things, and so many people think of being the same thing. There just can't be that many. Genius. At this moment, 100,000 heads are dreaming their geniuses like me. And who knows if history will remember even one of them. From all those dreams of glory, there'll be nothing but manure in the end. No, I don't believe in myself. In every asylum, there are madmen sure of so much. I, sure of nothing. Am I more sure or less sure than they? No, not even of myself. In how many garrets and non-garrets of the world are there self-styled geniuses dreaming now? How many high-minded aspirations, noble and lucid, yes, really, high-minded, noble and lucid, and who knows, even practicable, will ever see the real light of day or get a hearing? The world is made for those born to conquer it, not those who dream of conquering it, right though they may be. I've dreamt of more things than Napoleon went and did. I've taken to my so-called heart more humanity than Christ ever did. I've secretly thought up more philosophies than Kant ever wrote down. Yet I am, and maybe always will be, the man in the garret. Though I don't live in one. I'll always be the one who wasn't born for it. I'll always simply be the one with all the promise. I'll always be the one waiting for the door to open at the wall without a door. Who sang his anthem to infinity in a chicken coop? Who heard the voice of God in a covered well? Believe in myself? No, I don't, nor in anything. Let nature pour down upon my burning head her sun, her rain, the wind ruffling my hair, and let the rest come, if it will or must, or not at all. Cardiac cases enslaved by the stars. We've conquered the world before getting out of bed. But we wake and the world is opaque. We get up and the world looks strange. We go out in the street and there's the whole earth, plus solar system, Milky Way, and the old indefinitude. Eat your chocolates, little girl. Eat them up. Look, there's no metaphysics on earth but chocolates. Look, all our religions on earth have nothing more to teach us than a candy store does. Eat, dirty little girl, eat them up. If only I could gobble down those chocolates as trustily as you do. But then, I'm thinking, peeling off the silver wrapper. It's only tin foil. And toss it on the floor just as I've tossed away my life. But at least out of my bitterness at what I'll never be, there's the quick calligraphy of these lines, the broken archway to the impossible. At least I reserve for myself this dry-eyed contempt, noble at least in the grand gesture I make, flinging out the dirty clothes I am with no laundry list into the drift of things. And stay at home, shirtless. Oh, my comforters, who don't exist and so may comfort, whether Greek goddess conceived as a statue that springs alive, or Roman matron, impossibly noble and ominous, or princess of the troubadours, so blushing and so gentle, or 18th century marchioness, so décolleté and cool, a famous courtesan back in our parents' time, or modern whatever, since I can't imagine what. All of it, whatever it may be, if you can inspire, do it. My heart's an emptied pail. Like someone who can call up spooks calls up spooks. I call myself up and nothing's there. I go to the window and see the street in perfect clarity. I see the shops. I see the pavement. I see the passing cars. I see the dressed up living passers-by. I see the dogs too, also alive. And all of it weighs on me like a verdict of exile. And all of it strange to me like everything else. I lived, I studied, I loved, I even believed. And now there's no beggar I don't envy simply for not being me. In each I see the rags, the sores, the lies, and think, maybe you never lived, studied, loved, believed, because people can go through the motions without doing any of it. Maybe you barely existed like the lizard whose tail's been snipped, and is just a tail apart from the lizard, beating frantically. I made of myself something I didn't know, and what I could become, I didn't. The fancy costume I put on was wrong. They saw me straight for what I wasn't. I didn't disabuse them, so I lost myself. When I tried taking off the mask, it stuck to my face. When I pulled it off and looked in the mirror, I'd grown older. I was drunk and couldn't get into the fancy costume I hadn't taken off. So I threw away the mask and slept in the cloakroom. Like a dog, they let stay in the house because it's harmless. And I'm about to write this story to prove I'm sublime. musical essence of my useless poems. If only I could find you in something I'd really made and not forever fixed by the tobacco shop across the street. Stamping my feet on the consciousness of being alive, like a rug some drunkard stumbles over, or a doormat the gypsy stole, not worth a dime. But the tobacco shop owner has come to the door and stands there now. I look at him straining my half-turned neck, straining my half-blind soul. He'll die. He'll die and so will I. He'll leave his signboard, I'll leave poems. After a while, his signboard will perish too, and so will my poems. A little later, the street will die where his signboard hung, and so will the language my poems were written in. Then the spinning planet where all this happened will die. In other satellites, in other systems, something like people will go on making things like poems and living under things like signboards. Always one thing against another, always one thing as useless as another, always the impossible thing as stupid as the real thing, always the fundamental mystery as certain as the sleeping surface mystery. Always this thing or that, or neither one nor the other. But now a man's gone into the tobacco shop to buy tobacco, and the plausible reality of it all suddenly hits me. I'm getting up, full of energy, convinced, human, and about to try writing these lines which say the opposite. I light a cigarette and think of writing them, and in the cigarette I savor my liberation from all thoughts. I follow the smoke like a lane of my own, for one sensitive, dexterous moment, enjoying the freedom from all speculation and the consciousness that metaphysics comes from feeling out of sorts. Then I fall back in my chair and go on smoking. As long as fate permits, I'll go on smoking. If I married my washwoman's daughter, maybe I'd be happy. I think of this, get up from my chair, I go to the window. The man is leaving the shop, putting change into his pants pocket. Ah, I know him. It is non-metaphysical Stevens. The tobacco shop owner comes back to the door. As if by divine instinct, Stephen turns around and sees me. He waves me a hello. I shout back, "Hello, Stevens!" And the universe reorganizes itself for me, without hope or ideals, and the tobacco shop owner smiles. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurnur. Thank you, Shan. Now I want to invite Professor Jonardon Ganeri to deliver the lecture. Also, after the lecture, we'll have a question and answer session, so please note down your questions.
Well, thank you for that wonderful recital of Fernando Pessoa's poetry and for the generous introductions. It's such a delight to be here in St. Stephen's, which I heard about so much from my friend Uncle Burrower, who was a teacher here a long time ago. So my talk is going to be entitled Artifact Minds and Synthetic Selves, Reality Enriched in Fernando Pessoa and the Indian Philosophical Poets. Now, the philosopher David Chalmers, some of you may have heard of, in his already famous 2022 book about virtual reality, entitled Reality Plus, argues that virtual reality is genuine reality and that simulated minds are genuine minds. He writes, "Can a digital system be conscious, or only humans and animals conscious? The question matters a great deal in thinking about digital worlds. Consider the virtual world of Daniel Galouet's Simulacrum 3, which pioneered the simulation genre. This virtual world is a pure simulation containing many simulated humans with simulated brains. Are these simulated humans conscious? If they are, then to shut down the system irreversibly would be an atrocity, a sort of genocide. If they're not conscious, then they're digital zombies, and shutting down the system seems no worse than turning off an ordinary video game." Chalmers assumes that the answer is in the affirmative. Simulated minds are genuine minds, he says. And he defends a version of virtual realism, that the objects seen in a simulation are real, albeit virtual. So he writes, "Do the objects we perceive in a simulated world exist? If I'm in a perfect simulation, does the tree outside my window really exist? My opponent says, no, the tree and the window itself are mere hallucinations. I say, yes, the tree and the window really exist. At some level, they're digital objects grounded in digital processes in a computer, but they're no less real for that." Now, if we look very closely, we can detect traces of Pessoan heteronomy, which means becoming another I within a simulation. I'm going to say a lot more about the Pessoan concept of heteronomy later on in this talk. Already in Daniel Galouet's 1960